I'm really excited for this talk because oftentimes when we come to tech conferences, we learn a lot about code, we learn a lot about different maybe frameworks and tools, we learn about all of these very practical things that help us become better developers. But oftentimes when I'm talking with my friends, I always say that there's your dev skills and then your career. And they're not necessarily all one and the same. Some people are good at dev skills, not necessarily good at the career part. And unfortunately, I've met a few people who are really good at the career part, not necessarily good at the dev skills bit. But we want to have both. So our next speaker is going to make sure that this conference is totally holistic and hits both of those. Do you want to introduce them?
Absolutely. So a developer, teacher, leader, conference speaker, and recently transitioned to a course creator. She lives in Toronto, and she's passionate about teaching developers and leaders and helping them grow in their careers. So everybody, please give it up for Ankita Kulkarni.
Let's go. Standing ovation for the last talk of the day. Yes, I love seeing people stand. That's it.
You did it.
I did it.
All right. So I'm sure no one was expecting a standing ovation before a talk, and that was just a joke between me and Nathaniel from last night. But thank you so much, everyone, for standing. This is the last talk of the day, and I've been also told that as it is the last talk of the day, I should threaten everyone to go longer. So you all have to be really nice to me and make sure the room is quiet. No, I'm just kidding. Just talk, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I'm really excited to be here and talk about engineering leadership roadmap. Now, I want to share a little bit about my experience transitioning from a developer to a solution architect, technical lead, engineering manager, went into senior leadership, and all of that fun stuff. And I just felt like I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I sort of wanted to share that journey with you and sort of give you a roadmap. So my goal for today would be for you to take away some sort of a roadmap for yourself, because when we start thinking about technical skills, we take a million courses, we follow so many tutorials, we get into tutorial hell. But when we talk about like leadership, we don't know exactly what to do, and that's where we start to struggle. And that's not what I want. So my goal with this talk is to help you, give you some information so that you know exactly what to do if you're an existing leader or if you want to become a leader. So most early or newer engineering leaders or developers aren't sure how to succeed. They don't know what success looks like. They continue to act like individual contributors because they don't know what the definition of success looks like, or they aren't sure how to manage now because they were very good at executing code, writing code, but not so managing other people and getting other people to execute code the same way that they would as well. So in this talk, like I said, I would want to walk you with a roadmap itself. But I want to ask a couple of questions so I know exactly how to structure my talk. So raise your hand. How many of you are curious about becoming engineering leaders? OK, that's quite a few people. That's awesome. And how many of you are existing leaders? All right, I've got a few hands. That's awesome as well. All right, so my name is Ankita Kulkarni. I am a creator educator. My goal and mission is to sort of help developers and leaders like level up in their careers to technical skills and to leadership skills, and sort of use a decade of experience that I have and to teach you what I know so that I can pay it forward as well. Now, I have consulted and architected many different applications. I worked at companies like IBM, but also like really faster, smaller paced startups as well. And I've taught over 10,000 students online, so I really am passionate about teaching and mentoring others. So again, that's my mission, and I do that through courses. I have a newsletter, And if you're interested in the newsletter that I write weekly, then you can check it out here. But if you are interested in the YouTube channel, then I try to post more videos whenever possible. Recently, I launched a course on Tailwind CSS. So I have all sorts of stuff on my YouTube channel as well. So check it out. But let's first talk about my favorite thing, boss versus leader. Now, I have come across so many bosses in my life, which honestly pushed me to become a leader. But I want to sort of lay really like a ground here so that you know exactly what exactly is a leader. And obviously, I'm going to ask ChatGPT what exactly is a leader and try to understand what the definition comes out of that. So a leader is someone who will set a direction for the team and will have and build that trust and psychological safety that the team is going to execute it and give them necessarily any sort of support and power so that they can draw from examples from that experience and then help you all to become leaders eventually and better developers, whatever your path looks like. Now, on the other hand, a boss is going to just command. They exactly have one way. That's how it worked for them in their career, so it should also work for you. And they point fingers. There's a lot of blame culture. So you always want to stay away from being a boss and always strive towards being a leader. You might have seen as well in a lot of startups, a lot of companies rather, when one person leaves, a leader leaves, suddenly a lot of developers just leave. And that's because they are now not sure anymore who to look up to and what the vision of the company looks like. And that's the importance of being a leader, so try to stay away from being a boss. And so I wanted to ask you all, like, do you want to be? Do you want to be a boss or a leader? Because bosses will create more followers, versus leaders will in turn create more leaders. So again, how many bosses or how many of you have seen more bosses in your careers? Raise your hand, versus leaders. All right, I've got quite a few, which is a good thing, because that means a lot of you have leaders in your company, which is awesome. So how exactly do you become a leader? What are some things that you should look for? So let's say if you are curious about leadership, the first thing you want to know, you want to tell your manager that, hey, I'm interested and I'm curious and I want to try out this specific path. You want to start then leading smaller features and showing initiative. You need to have a voice in the room and express your thoughts. Now, it doesn't matter if your thoughts are right or wrong, but start expressing and asking questions. Genuinely be curious. Start showing ownership and be someone on your team that your team can lean on. If your name comes up, then everyone in your team should be like, yeah, they are really reliable and get things done, and you want to be that. And also start mentoring people as well, mentoring other developers, and teach from your experience, because we can all draw from whatever we have learned so far in our career. And start thinking big picture. You want to make sure that whatever you're thinking not just that's for that specific feature, but how does your feature fit into this giant org structure that you have? How does your feature ladder up to the goals of the org? And I think that will also help you decide which feature would have the most impact and will gain you the most visibility and so on. And lastly, spend time learning the skill set. Now, a mistake that a lot of devs made, and honestly I made too, is that when I was thrown into being a leader, I didn't have a specific path specifically. I didn't go to any resources or try to take any courses or anything of that sort. And I just realized, oh my God, I'm in this new role altogether, and I have no idea how to do any of the things that I was asked to do, such as performance reviews or leading a team, or how to enable others. I knew how I could manage myself, but I had no idea how to manage others. That's when I hired coaches and things like that to help me sort of bridge that path. But I thought that this shouldn't be this complicated. There should have been more resources specifically for engineering leadership. This is interesting. Okay, so specifically for engineering leadership, there should be more resources in general. So as you really don't want people on your team to just be guinea pigs and experiments because you just did not spend time learning the skill set of being a leader, how to exactly lead. You don't want that. And I honestly felt that I was in that position, but quickly I pivoted and hired coaches and mentors who have been there, done that, and sort of I had like a team of 3 or 4 people who I would constantly ask for guidance, started documenting my journey, and really started leading. But because I wasn't in a true managerial role, it sort of helped me with that transition in general. So why leadership is a skill set you need to learn? Now, as developers, we have code reviews. Whenever we write any code, if let's say we are entry-level developers or we are growing, it's a new technology, we don't know exactly how to write code in that specific technology. Then we have code reviews. Our peers review our code, we get feedback, and then we don't let any random code gets pushed to production because we want to make sure that good quality code makes it in. But as leaders, there are no code reviews. We just are asked to sort of do performance reviews of people, and there's also like this late gratification as well. So you don't really know, the feedback cycle is not that quick. So you really need to make sure that you start learning how to start measuring your success. Again, as developers, there are libraries and frameworks that we can use. We don't have to build from the ground up. We don't have to start from scratch. But as a leader, you can still have that by leaning on frameworks and templates that are out there of existing successful leaders who have been there, done that, and start leading on that so that you don't have to come up with what questions should I ask in a one-on-one. Because there are so many good questions and templates out there that you can just use and use that to ask those questions in your one-on-ones, as an example. So similarly, again, as let's say there's a framework for React, we go to npm.js or Yarn package manager and install React as a library. Similarly, there are template libraries for first-time managers for making decisions, one-on-one templates, creating OKRs, monthly achievements, and so on. So this is just taken from one of the courses that I have on leadership. But again, these are all the frameworks and templates that you can use in general to sort of learn that skill set. And there are a few things that sort of I wish I knew before becoming an engineering leader, and I want to sort of pass that on to you. So we're going to talk a little bit about feelings. I don't want to get all mushy, but I want to make sure that you'll understand this is exactly what you will go through. Not exactly, but like fairly what a lot of people go through, and I've heard in comparison. So one of the questions I get asked a lot is, will I be able to code the same way after I get into leadership? A common question is that a lot of devs have, and a lot of people are just like, I want to only care about the work that I do and not my peers. Now, one, that is not a great attitude to have because it's not just your code, it's your team's code and shared code in general. But which you should code totally depends on the week. But we all have those managers in general where you sort of ask them or you try to share them about the problem you're facing, and they have no idea what you're talking about. Suddenly, you just feel like they are unable to connect with you, and what gets passed on to their managers or to the team is a completely different story. And so it's really important for you to be technical and use your experience so that you can guide others. So I sort of think like you keep a balance. Every week can be different, and your primary responsibility needs to be people and managing them and enabling others, but at the same time, you shouldn't walk away from coding altogether as a manager or a leader in general, because that's going to help you gain that insight and share that context with your team. Now, so I would say like some weeks it could be 70-30, some days 60-40, and so on. But if you find yourself spending way too much time coding and less time doing other things, you will start to see that your team is going to start falling apart because they are going to lean on you for guidance. And you are going to feel probably lonely at times as a leader. Because one thing when you transition, your peers suddenly become other managers in the company. It's no longer your teammates. Initially, there were developers who are ICs, that is, individual contributors on the same team. Now, as leaders, that's no longer the case. These are peers on your level. So you will start to feel that you need to lean on other leaders and start picking their brain on things for specific problems or challenges you're facing in general. And you got to learn how to say no, or better, not yet as well. Because you got to learn how to say no to tasks, to features, to requests in general. Otherwise, you're going to burn out your team because you suddenly have to deliver 10 things in one quarter because you said yes to something or you did not learn how to say no. So it's extremely important for you to do that. And you should feel OK with delayed gratification, because just like I said, with code reviews in general, you get feedback right away. But with leadership, that's not the case, because these are people that we're talking about. They're humans, and we all take time with our growth, and the feedback that you're going to get is going to be really slow in terms of people growth in general. And what got you here won't get you further. And the reason I say that is because you were the most smartest technical person probably on your team, and that's why you decided to switch to leadership, because you were really good at that and you got probably promoted. But that doesn't mean that the same skill set is what you need when you start moving further. It's a completely new skill set, which does have some overlap, but you still need to learn new skills. And again, you need to learn how to measure your success, because very few people are going to tell you, hey, you're doing great, because you need to learn how to measure how you are doing great on your own, because there are very few people that are going to do that, because everyone's going to look up to you as a leader. And it is a pendulum. So it's completely obvious to switch from one side to the other. For example, you might try a leadership role for a year, and you think that it's not your thing, then you can always go back. Now, definitely, it can feel like a demotion. It can feel like if you switch back to being an IC, then you might get some sort of a pay cut, or it's not OK to switch and things like that. But you will also be sort of reducing your responsibilities at that level, and you need to start looking at that from that lens. But I want to say that it's totally OK for you to switch back and forth. It's not a hard and fast rule that if you start making that decision, you have to stick to it, and you have to do it until you are intact. A lot of people keep switching and trying new things, and I would highly recommend to do that. And I have sort of like a roadmap for you all that you need to, at every level and in every skill set, exactly what you need to do, that you could go to this link. In general, like if you go to this link, you'll find the slides and all my information that I'm sharing in this presentation as well. So you can go to EM Roadmap BR for Brussels. All right, so now that we talked a lot about our feelings, let's talk about, quickly, an 8-part framework that I like to use to start creating this roadmap for yourself so you know exactly where to stand. So you're going to go through 3 phases of leadership journey. One is awareness, second is development, and third is mastery. First, you're going to start to be aware of that, hey, I am actually picking up leadership skills. Hey, I love being a leader. Then you're going to actually execute and start working on it. And slowly, you want to really be really good at it and gain towards mastery. But again, that's going to take time. And this is the system that I've taught in my course as well, called Developer to Leader. And in that specific course, these are the 8 pillars to leadership that I have sort of created to sort of walk you through a step-by-step process for exactly how you can become a leader in general. And we will go through that. So if you were to divide into 3 phases, for example, when you are just curious about leadership, you want to know exactly what to do, then you want to focus on foundations and expectations. When you want to get going, you want to be really good at it, then you want to focus on feedback and coaching, career and people growth, and high-performing team. And lastly, when you want to be really confident and really start looking to level up to the next level, then start looking at strategy and vision, hiring, and technical excellence. Now, again, we'll dive into each one of these one by one. So let's look at foundation really quick. So foundation won't be easy until you start developing the specific skill set. What exactly does your leadership style look like? You gotta foster a growth mindset. Now, if you don't do that, then you're going to struggle, because again, what got you here won't get you further. So you need to start seeing challenges as opportunities that you can look forward. And exactly how would you like to show up for your team? You want to develop some sort of a philosophy and get to know what type of a leader you want to be. Get to know what your leadership style should be as well. What are some of the expectations from you? So you need to know what success looks like as a leader from your team in your company. So you know how to crush them, you know what the expectations are from you. Because unless you know the expectations, then you won't necessarily know how to crush them or meet them. How much technical context is needed to become a manager or a leader in your company? You gotta evaluate all of that. And if you don't know the expectations, just ask your manager. Make sure you know when you start transitioning, you know exactly what you're getting into, and you know exactly what to expect, so you start meeting those expectations. And managing stakeholders, stakeholders are anyone that care about your work and depend on your team's work, and a huge part of your job would be to manage them and showcase the best work that your team is doing, so make sure that you know how to manage the stakeholders. The other module is feedback and coaching, or the other pillar is feedback and coaching. You want to get into the coaching mindset because it's not about turning you into a coach, but teaching you how exactly to lead. So start asking questions in general, and instead of just giving answers to people, make them think. Because if they come to an answer, then on their own, then they are going to execute that in the future. Otherwise, you will always be telling them exactly what to do. Career and people growth. Now, your goal should be to grow, advocate, and promote people using processes and creating a culture that people love coming to work for. Because if you do this, then people are not going to switch teams. Because at the end of the day, we will all get technical work in all sorts of companies. But if you hate your manager, then you are going to switch teams, or you're going to change companies. So it's important that your goal should be to grow, advocate people, and start promoting them once they get to their level, and create that culture. And I also call this the gap model. And again, you start conducting performance reviews and make sure that you have some sort of a growth plan for them, so that you know what their growth looks like. And a growth plan would be something like this, where let's say you are focusing on a competency for cross-collaborating initiatives that impact the org. Then their goal could be that they're leading the notifications North Star by improving the system coverage. This is just an example. But you can start to think how your organization goal can start breaking down into individual goals, and you can start showing the impact in the last column to whatever they have done, so you can start showcasing that to the rest of the org. And again, as I mentioned, I have a course on this topic as well called developer2leader.com. So if you're interested, you can check it out too. And the other module is high-performing teams. Now, high-performing teams are not a team of high performers. They are, in fact, a team. They know the secret sauce for how to work and crush it together. They're not just some people who just execute all the time. They're also people who know exactly how to work with others and are collaborative. Now, I would say this is a checklist that I would use to evaluate a team. Are they goal-oriented? Are they hyper-focused? Are they afraid to make mistakes? All of these would add to what a high-performing team would be, so you know exactly what to create for that specific team. You want to openly share your learnings, and if you make mistakes, don't punish them, because you want to make sure you're creating that psychological safety for them. Then strategy and vision. And this is where we're getting to the mastery side of things. Again, vision without action is a dream. Action without vision is a nightmare. Because if people don't know where they're heading, they are going completely blind. And again, this could be some sort of if this is your organizational objective, where you're improving the user experience or creating some sort of a design system, then you know exactly what results to look for and what sort of things to achieve for that convert that objective, the org goal, into specific results that you can strive for. This is, again, just one example, and I will pass on the slides so you can take a look at it in depth. So how do org goals break down into achievable team goals? Where the org wants to head, if they want to build a really unified, great documentation system, then how does that convert to individual teams? And how does team start building that documentation so that it starts laddering up to that specific goal? And how you can measure them as well. And hiring and interviewing is another pillar. So you got to start networking and looking for candidates even when you're not hiring, so that you're building relationships and connections in the community, so that whenever anyone is looking, they know that they spoke to you and they really liked you and your team and your attitude in general, so that they can start coming to you for whatever they are looking for, or advice in general. Now, a lot of companies do fail because they hire prematurely or they grow too fast. Many times we have heard of so many startups that just fail because they just grew too fast and suddenly they couldn't handle the growth and all that. So you really need to make sure that you strike a balance, because hiring is going to be in your power. You can decide who to hire, what type of skills to hire for, and so on. Then again, this is like a little playbook that I want to share, which is, should you hire? Do you have the team to support the goals? Does your org have budget? Should you hire? Can work happen parallelly instead of sequentially, and so on? You want to assess the gaps in the team so that you know exactly whether you should hire or not. Then lastly is technical excellence. Again, I don't want to go into detail, but I will give you an ebook as part of it. So again, check the link that I sent you so that you know exactly what to look for in technical excellence. And these are the few things that I've covered in that specific ebook. So if you're interested, then you can check it out. But you want to make sure that you are creating that sort of technical excellent team, so that all the other teams and org comes to you to sort of gain that knowledge and feedback, but how your team has really created that robust system so it scales really well, is working well together, and ultimately your goal should be to build that high-performing team as one does. And lastly, I want to leave you with, you can do a lot of things to set up yourself for success, but what should you focus on? What are a few things that will get you that 80% of the result? Like what can your team focus on and spend less time but get you the maximum impact? That is exactly what you should focus on. And having said that, thank you so much for listening to me. And yeah, all the resources are at the link given below. But that's all for this today.
Thank you.